Hey friends, I want to share something really special with you today from my sponsor Noble Gold, because without their help I would not be able to make this content for you. Do you remember that moment you became aware of just how much you didn't know? I certainly remember mine, and once your eyes are open, it's impossible to keep them closed any longer. Noble Gold has created something remarkable to remember that moment, so I want to introduce you to the Q coin. A year of painstaking detail went into making this, not just because of the phenomenal design, not just because of the incredible symbolism on the coin, not just because of the sense of belonging it instills, but because it's a big secret hidden in plain sight. If you take a look at the coin, it's loaded with Q quotes, a lightning bolt, 17 references, and so much more. And take a look at the packaging that this coin comes in. It's truly a work of art. Whether you're new to the movement or you've been following for some time, you're going to want to add this to your collection. You can get yours today by going to www.greatawakeningcoin.com. And for this month, you can get a $5 discount if you buy 2 coins. Just use my name, RedPill78, in the discount box, and you'll get these 2 coins delivered to your doorstep. They're simply amazing. The choice will be yours. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Well, as I reported yesterday, Christopher Steele has made a deal with investigators, and Joe DeGenova was talking about it later in the day. He said the walls are beginning to close in. Christopher Steele is set to speak with U.S. investigator John Durham and will prove the FBI lied in FISA warrants. This is great news. Yesterday, it wasn't clear exactly who he was going to be speaking with in the U.S. government. But as reported earlier, former British spy and author of the 35-page Hillary-funded junk Russia dossier, Christopher Steele, has agreed to be questioned by U.S. investigators, reported Fox News. Last week, it was reported that Christopher Steele, who was paid by Hillary Clinton and the DNC to compile a 35-page dossier smearing Donald Trump during the 2016 presidential election, was refusing to cooperate with U.S. Attorney John Durham in his investigation into the origins of Spygate. Attorney General Bill Barr and U.S. Attorney John Durham are currently conducting an interagency investigation into the origins of Spygate. Hillary Clinton hid her payments to Steele by paying him through Pkwy, the law firm that represented the DNC during the 2016 presidential election. Steele, as we know, was the confidential human source used by the FBI while simultaneously working for Oppo research firm Fusion GPS to compile a 35-page dossier full of lies against Donald Trump using his Russian intel sources. Now, even though the FBI terminated Steele, he continued to feed the U.S. government information through DOJ official Bruce Orr, who was acting as a back channel to the FBI. The FBI ultimately used the phony Hillary-funded salacious dossier to obtain a FISA warrant and 3 subsequent renewals on Trump campaign advisor Carter Page in order to spy on Trump during the 2016 election. The main reason why Steele was willing to cooperate with the IG is because Horowitz has no teeth. He cannot impanel a grand jury. He can only criminally refer people to the DOJ. In contrast, Durham's investigation spans across multiple intel agencies, and he has the power to convene a grand jury. Now this. On Tuesday night, former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGenova told Sean Hannity that Christopher Steele will be interviewed by U.S. Attorney John Durham. He said, well, he obviously made a strategic decision because he's going to be interviewed by Durham. It's not the Inspector General from the Department of Justice who is going to talk to him, because he doesn't have any reason to talk to Mr. Horowitz. He's going to talk to John Durham and his people. So there's obviously been some sort of deal that's been worked out. This is great news. I assume he's going to tell the truth now, because this is the big casino now. And what he's going to prove is the FBI lied in the FISA warrants, and they lied to Congress, and they lied to everybody about what they knew about Steele's behavior. Let's go ahead and take a listen to Joe DeGenova.
Joe DeGenova and former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Victoria Tunsing, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter. Joe, we will begin with you and where we are today, because I think the Steele announcement that he is going to start talking could blow this part of it wide open.
Well, he's obviously made a strategic decision because he's going to be interviewed by John Durham. It's not the Inspector General from the Department of Justice who's going to talk to him, because he doesn't have any reason to talk to Mr. Horowitz. He's going to talk to John Durham and his people. So there's obviously some sort of deal that's been worked out. This is great news. But according to some reports, there are limitations on his testimony. I can't believe that Durham would agree to such limitations. But this is what's important. He has to tell the truth to Durham, because even though his testimony will be given overseas, he can be indicted in the United States if he lies to Durham. So I assume he's going to tell the truth, because this is the big casino now. And what he's going to prove is that the FBI lied in the FISA warrants, and they lied to Congress, and they lied to everybody about what they knew about Steele's behavior. This is the walls are beginning to close in on the FBI fraudsters.
Okay, and we talk, Sarah, a lot about an avalanche cascading down. This is only a small part. By the way, what is taking Michael Horowitz? Michael Horowitz has like 700 people working for him. When do we get this FISA report finished and completed? Or is it possible he's completed it and handed it over to the Attorney General and we don't know? Victoria's saying no. Why, Victoria?
Because I think that he's run into difficulty in getting some documents from Chris Wray of the FBI. And so that's going to prolong his inquiry. And that's about what he can do, an inquiry. Of course, he can't subpoena anybody and he can't indict anybody.
But they can make.
So Christopher Steele is going to need to watch his butt, watch what he says, and he better tell the truth, because a lot is riding on this. I think that John Durham is going to know what kind of shenanigans he's up to if he tries to pull any. This is great news, guys. This is one step closer to having the truth revealed. All right, next I have a couple of tweets from Tribunal Watch. We were told before, watch the wives. Well, in this case, it's watch the wife. While the president and FLOTUS were in the UK, I actually meant to include this picture the other day and forgot, but both she and Camilla were wearing white hats. Well, it goes deeper than that. She's wearing the same white hat as Princess Diana, with also a white dress, however slightly jazzed up. Our First Lady has impeccable style. And Tribunal Watch asks, FLOTUS arrival UK dressed as Diana? What happened to Diana? What did she find out? Why was she running? News, CNN, bad actor, London mayor, Khan, worship Satan, spirit cooking. What did she find out? Believe in coincidences? Everything has meaning. And the question about what happened to Diana was from Post 100 right there. Here's a better look at the photo of our First Lady wearing the white hat, and then Princess Diana. Not exactly the same, perhaps it's just the angle, but I'd say it's strikingly similar. She wears it a little better, though, of course. But no coincidence, I think, that both Camilla and the First Lady are wearing white hats. I think that Patriots are in control in this situation. Now, one more tweet here. Well, two more tweets. Tribunal Watch is asking questions about the possible extraction of one JA on Air Force One. Well, then he goes so far as to show here that the runway where the president is landing and taking off is just, 4 miles? Very, very close in any regard. I thought I saw something that said 4 miles, but very close to the prison where Julian Assange is being held. And, of course, Christopher Steele, as I stated earlier in the broadcast, just agreed to talk to John Huber. So perhaps this is all part of the same deal. All right, there we are, the 4 miles right there, showing that 4 miles separates. Now, if you remember here, this is Bree, the reporter that passed away when I first started making videos, Bree Payton from The Federalist. And I had, asked, what happened to her? She died mysteriously. We have, of course, Seth Rich here. There is, looks like a meeting taking place, and this guy looks concerned, he says. Well, this tweet right here from Tribunal Watch states that from a source on location that POTUS has secured an agreement to allow change of custody from JA onto Air Force One. Does that mean he's going to depart London with POTUS on Air Force One and reroute into secure custody? That would certainly allow President Trump to question him directly, and we could have this whole mess all taken care of. Now, again, POTUS is abroad. This would be perfect. It would really solve a lot of issues for everyone here involved, and it would also save our man J.A. from WL. So thoughts and prayers need to go out to everyone. I think that if this is to happen, this would be a very, very dangerous move because the bad actors still operating in the UK might get some ideas. So keep your thoughts and prayers with President Trump and the First Lady and everyone aboard Air Force One, especially if he is there. Now, Lou Dobbs is speaking out against the disgusting and appalling display of the Republicans in the U.S. Senate. He went off on so-called Republicans for blocking Trump's Mexican tariffs. On Tuesday, Senate Republicans defied the will of the people and warned President Trump against his tariffs on the Mexican economy. This is the same Republican Party that refused to support the will of the people and this president when with border security and refused to fund his border wall with Mexico. There is currently over 100,000 illegals crossing into the U.S. each month from Central America, Mexico, Asia, and Africa. The do-nothing Senate Republicans sent Trump a warning Tuesday that they do not support tariffs on Mexican imports. President Trump last Thursday evening announced that a 5% tariff will be imposed on all Mexican imports beginning June 10th and will gradually increase until the illegal immigration stops. On June 10th, the United States will impose a 5% tariff on all goods coming into our country from Mexico until such time as illegal migrants coming through Mexico and into our country stop. The tariff will gradually increase until the illegal immigration problem is remedied, at which time the tariffs will be removed. Details from the White House will follow, Trump tweeted last week. Just hours after President Trump announced he will be imposing 5% tariffs on Mexican imports over illegal immigration, Mexico's President López Obrador sent Trump a letter begging for a meeting to work toward a solution. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell sent President Trump a warning Tuesday afternoon and let him know that the Senate Republicans do not support the tariffs on Mexico. On Tuesday night, Lou Dobbs tore into the do-nothing Republican senators, an appalling display. Later in the show, Dobbs correctly stated they are telling every person who voted for this president to go to HE double hockey sticks. Let's go ahead and take a listen to Lou Dobbs and his opinion.
The strong leader can't be undercut by his own team.
I want you to listen and the audience to watch this as we listen to so-called Republicans in the U.S. Senate revealing their true selves to the nation and working against the interest not only of the nation, but the interests of the president and all of you who voted for them.
And we are very concerned about the additional tariffs that have been proposed.
Well, there is not much support in my conference for tariffs, that's for sure.
We already voted once to disapprove the president on the national security issue of the national emergency at the border. He then vetoed that, and then it was not overridden. Why go through that again?
Why go through that again? Well, Mr. Portman, it would be to save the national interest and your sorry hide, frankly, Senator, because that's what's at stake here. Can you believe Joni Ernst, a freshman senator? This is just an appalling display.
And McConnell needs to show some leadership. He basically needs to sit down with his guys and say, listen, we need this. This president is doing what he promised to do, what we all promised we would do if we got elected, and it's time for us to basically stand up and back him up.
That's right. It is time for the Republicans to impart the will of the president, which is the will of the people. This is what he was elected to do. This is what they were elected to do, was to stand up and back our POTUS. President Trump has made promises and he intends to keep them, but he cannot keep them without the people in Congress backing him up and supporting his agenda. Mitch McConnell does need to show leadership. Mitch McConnell needs to walk into the Senate, he needs to get his people together, and he needs to demand that they support the president. This is not something that can be failed on. It's not just about immigration. This is about security. This is about safety. This is about health. This is about the well-being of the United States. And as it stands right now, they are nothing but rhinos. Now, just in, good news, Broward County deputy who failed to confront the park land assailant has been arrested for child neglect. Former Broward County Deputy Scott Peterson was arrested and charged on Tuesday for child neglect after an investigation into law enforcement's response to the big event at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School that occurred last February. Scott Peterson stood by and did nothing to stop the assailant who ended up murdering 17 students and teachers. Peterson, 56, was arrested on 11 charges related to the Parkland incident. This is from WCTV Eyewitness News. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement has arrested former Broward County Sheriff's Deputy Scott Peterson on charges of child neglect and culpable negligence as a result of a 15-month investigation into the actions of law enforcement following the school event at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. The FDLE investigation shows former Deputy Peterson did absolutely nothing to mitigate the MSD event that killed 17 children, teachers, and staff and injured 17 others. Can you believe it? 17 injuries, 17 deaths, said FDLE Commissioner Rick Swearingen. There can be no excuse for his complete inaction and no question that his inaction cost lives. Peterson was the school resource officer for MSD during the event. Officials say the investigation revealed Peterson refused to investigate the source of the shots, retreated during the event while victims were being wounded, and directed other law enforcement who arrived on scene to remain 500 feet away from the building. Incredible. Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis recently suspended Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel over his department's abysmal response to the Parkland massacre. There was no wrongdoing on my part. I served the county honorably, Scott Israel defiantly said in a press conference just after DeSantis made the announcement in January. Law enforcement at every level failed to stop the massacre. The Parkland assailant, Nicholas Cruz, was even on the FBI's radar several months before he went on the spree at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Now, this is a national tragedy. Regardless of exactly how it happened, it could have been prevented in so many ways. Not least of all, it could have been stopped before it got to the point that it did. I think that we're going to find some very, very telling information about this sheriff's deputy who failed to do anything at all. Literally stood by and did nothing and told other officers to stay away. This is not what law enforcement is supposed to do, and I know that the vast majority of police officers out there know that, and they would have done something had they been on the scene. Most people, probably the vast majority, 99% of the police officers out there would have risked their lives to run into the situation, save these children, or at the very least, stop the assailant. Now, some extremely troubling news coming out of Arkansas. A former state senator has been found dead from an apparent GS wound. She is a former Republican state senator, and she was apparently an NRA advocate. Let's go ahead and take a look at the coverage. So, former State Senator Linda Collins Smith was reportedly found dead from a GS wound, according to the former press secretary Ken Yang. Yang says that her death is, in fact, being investigated as a murder. According to Yang, neighbors had reportedly heard shots a day or two before Collins Smith was discovered today. Her body was reportedly found wrapped in some sort of blanket. Bill Sadler with Arkansas State Police can't confirm Collins Smith's death, but he says ASP has Criminal Investigation Division agents working a homicide outside Pocahontas. This is a developing story. Let's go ahead and take a look at the coverage from News 5.
We begin the night with some breaking news.
A former Arkansas state senator is dead tonight. Linda Collins Smith, who represented District 19 from 2014 to 2018, was reportedly found dead in her Randolph County home, that's in northeast Arkansas, from a gunshot wound. That information coming from her former press secretary, who also says her death is being investigated as a murder. Now, we don't have a lot of information right now, including any possible suspects.
Tonight, the Republican Party of Arkansas posting it to its Facebook page regarding to Collins Smith, saying in part she was a passionate voice for her people and a close member of our Republican family. We're praying for her loved ones during this very difficult time.
And of course, we'll have much more about this story tomorrow on your 5 News This Morning.
Sad, sad news. Now, the question becomes, what was she involved in? Is this something that's a personal matter, or is this related to some type of activity she was getting up to in Arkansas? We all know who's from Arkansas, and it would be pretty compelling evidence if she was connected to those people. So let's see. Prior to her Senate service, Collins Smith was a one-term member from 2011 to 2013 of the Arkansas House of Representatives for District 80. Though elected as a Democrat, she switched parties in August 2011, 8 months after taking office. In redistricting, Collins Smith was moved to the same district as Republican incumbent Lori Benedict. Collins Smith chose to run for the Arkansas Senate in the 19th District rather than challenge Benedict. Incumbent Democratic Senator David Wyatt defeated Collins Smith in 2012, but on November 4th, 2014, Collins Smith rebounded to win the Senate position by defeating the Democrat James McLean. Wyatt died shortly after the 2014 election, and Collins Smith had been openly critical of conservative Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson. She is backed by the polarizing group Conduit for Action, headed by Joe Maynard and Brenda Vassar-Taylor. Looks like she owned and operated a Days Inn in Pocahontas. She was married to a circuit court judge. They had 2 children. Her Wikipedia page has already been updated to reflect her death. No obvious ties to the Clintons, but Arkansas is a small state, if you catch my drift. And in a late-breaking development sent over by a viewer, Randy Vaughn, that former Arkansas state senator who was just murdered had previously called in to speak with Patriot Soapbox. This is incredible. I cannot believe that this is just a coincidence. Former Republican Arkansas state senator appeared this afternoon, this was back in March, on Patriot Soapbox, which is a 24/7 live source of content for the QAnon community on YouTube. Linda Collins Smith was elected to represent Arkansas State Senate District 19 in 2014 and served in the office until she was defeated in primary elections in 2018 by Republican challenger James Sturch. She previously served in Arkansas House of Representatives from 2011 to 2013 on behalf of District 80. Now, here is a tweet from Indy News, who at the time announced that she was going to be appearing. She liked it and retweeted it. She even replied. So we even have video, so we know that she was on there. Collins appeared on Patriot Soapbox alongside Arkansas Angel Mom Kathy Hall, and she said, "I'm so proud to be here with you all," when she appeared on the stream. As she spoke, there were posts being displayed in the bottom left corner of the screen. Above it, viewer comments scrolled by, many thanking Collins for appearing on the show. Collins did not speak directly to our favorite Anon, of course, but rather discussed legislation to prevent Arkansas municipalities from adopting the sanctuary cities model regarding undocumented immigrants. Collins said she recently met with Arkansas Senators Tom Cotton and John Boozman to speak about legislation that she believes would combat undocumented immigration. And apparently Collins was following at least 2 pro-Q accounts on Twitter. The first is Arkansas-based account that displays the name Amy Q Patriot. The second displays the name Tamara Davis. Both accounts have "Where We Go One, We Go All," an abbreviation for the Q slogan in their account bios. Twitter Advanced Search did not find any instances where Collins posted original content from our favorite Anon. So now Linda Collins has been murdered. This investigation just took a very dramatic turn, and it makes me think even more that this is directly related to the Clintons. And President Trump has lit up washed-up psycho Bette Midler for sharing fake Trump quote on GOP voters being the dumbest. Sunday night, singer Bette Midler, a longtime Trump hater, shared a quote from the president with her 1.6 million Twitter followers that was liked more than 27,000 times and retweeted more than 10,000 times. Midler said in 1998, Trump said he would one day run as a Republican because they are the dumbest group of voters. He certainly knew his crowd, Midler added. Turns out that tired old quote has been around for years and debunked by several so-called fact-checking organizations, including the heavily left-leaning Snopes. False, Snopes concluded. Twitter shredded Midler earlier this week, and she was forced to apologize. "I apologize. This quote turns out to be a fake from way back in 2015-2016. I don't know how I missed it, but it sounds so much like him that I believed it was true," she wrote. An apology, non-apology. And President Trump lit up the washed-up psycho Bette Midler Tuesday evening, calling her a sick scammer. Washed-up psycho Bette Midler was forced to apologize for a statement she attributed to me that turned out to be totally fabricated by her in order to make your great president look really bad. She got caught, just like the fake news media gets caught. A sick scammer, Trump tweeted. Yeah, why am I not surprised? Bette Midler and these crazies on the left constantly trying to do anything they can to make our president look bad. You know what's funny? They have to resort to ad hominem attacks and these false attacks because they have absolutely nothing that they can really say about him. Everything that they complain about is stuff that's actually good for America, and they just don't like it because they don't like us and they don't like America. They cannot stand to see America doing well. Bette Midler is a tired, washed-up old bag, and she deserves to get the boot. All right, guys, next, someone in my video comments from yesterday pointed out that the photo of Nader and Bill Clinton was not in that spot in the Caribbean that I identified. It was actually the Dominican Republic, which is where that George Nader was from. So I just wanted to get that on record and apologize for that slip, you guys. I missed it. Now, from Mind Fuhrer here, there was a Pennsylvania woman who died a couple days before a Maryland couple died at the same hotel in the Dominican Republic. All that's been said is that the couple died from an illness. It's reported they were supposed to leave, and the day before they were supposed to leave, they told their family members that they weren't feeling well, and then they died. This is the woman right here who died just a few days before that couple. We're going to take a look at her first. So she's from Pennsylvania. The couple that died was from Maryland. But they both died at the same resort in the Dominican Republic. So 5 days before a Maryland couple was found dead in their hotel room in the Dominican Republic, a Pennsylvania woman collapsed and died at the same resort shortly after she checked in, the family spokesperson said. So that's interesting. The couple had been there for at least several days. However, she just arrived, so it makes it seem that it's not an illness that she contracted while she was there, unless it was extremely fast-acting. The symptoms from the couple makes me think that this was some type of poisoning. Now, the fact that they're all dying at the same resort leads me to believe that it's even something more nefarious. Her name was Miranda Shop Werner. She was 41 of Allentown, Pennsylvania, and she had just checked in on May 25th and enjoyed a drink from the minibar at the Bahia Principe Hotel in La Romana, family spokesperson Jay McDonald told a CNN affiliate. She was with her husband, Dan Werner, at the resort celebrating their 9th wedding anniversary when she collapsed in her hotel room, he said. At one point, she was sitting there, happily smiling and taking pictures, and the next moment she was in acute pain and called out for Dan, and she collapsed, McDonald said. He was understandably in shock, but the whole thing was just so stunning. 5 days later, on May 30th, a Maryland couple, Edward Nathaniel Holmes, 63, and Cynthia Ann Day, 49, missed their scheduled checkout time at their same resort. Hotel employees checked on them and found them dead, police said. When Shop Werner's family heard about the couple's deaths, they noted the State Department of the similarities and requested an investigation, according to McDonald, he said. Shop Werner was healthy before her death. What we thought was a freak event, now we don't know, he said. CNN has reached out to the resort and the Dominican Republic National Police for more information. Now, here is the Maryland couple right here who passed away. 3 Americans in 5 days. The two families are searching for answers after the loss of their loved ones in the same resort 5 days apart. In a statement to CNN, the State Department confirmed the deaths of the 3 U.S. citizens in the Dominican Republic last month. We offer our sincerest condolences to the families for their loss, it said. After Day and Holmes died, the Dominican Republic National Police said an autopsy concluded the couple had respiratory failure and pulmonary edema, a condition caused by excess fluid in the lungs. Various medications meant to treat high blood pressure were found in the room, police said, but there were no signs of violence in the room. All 3 of them checked in on the same day. Holmes and Day were engaged and were from Prince George's County, Maryland, relatives told CNN affiliate WBAL. They were supposed to fly back home the day they were found. Days before their deaths, Holmes posted Facebook photos of the couple enjoying their time in open waters. Boat ride of a lifetime, one captain said. The 3 Americans all checked into the hotel on May 25th, the same day Shop Werner died, the affiliate reported. The couple was checking out 5 days later when they were found. Their bodies were transported to the Dominican National Institute of Forensic Sciences for an exam. We are deeply saddened by the incident at one of our hotels in La Romana, Dominican Republic, and we want to express our deepest condolences to their family and friends. This is a statement from the hotel. La Romana is on the Dominican Republic's Caribbean coast and has a population of about 130,000. So it turns out that Shop Warner was a psychotherapist. That is her right there with her husband checking in on the 9th anniversary, not checking in, but rather on Facebook. There were some other deaths that also occurred. Dominican Republic police said in April a combination of alcohol, speeding, and dark roads may have led to the deaths of a couple from New York who stayed at the Grand Bahia Principe Kayakoa Hotel in Samana. Orlando Moore, 41, and Portia Ravenel, 52, were believed by authorities to be en route to the airport to return from their vacation at the same Brand property where Moore may have lost control and crashed into the Caribbean Sea. Daniel Werner, the husband of the deceased woman, is also a psychotherapist. And here he is right here. This information is publicly available online. And it looks like this is their website, or the website of the practice they are affiliated with, or that he is affiliated with anyways. And more specifically, it looks like he's a hypnotherapist. And on the thread from Mein Führer, Jordan Sather had posted this bit of information. There was also a Lockheed Martin engineer and his wife who passed away in Fiji. Now, this is the couple that died while vacationing in the South Pacific island from an unidentified illness. They arrived on May 22nd and were taken to a hospital after they became ill. And it says their condition worsened despite medical care, and they died within a few days of each other. So the deaths are being investigated, and they're from Fort Worth, and they are David and Michelle Paul. They had a 2-year-old son, and David Paul had a daughter from a previous relationship. He was an engineer at Lockheed Martin at the Beach Street facility in Fort Worth. The company says that it is working with the family to help bring them back to Texas. He was an Air Force veteran, and they were both physically fit, a relative said. But in this story that I'm about to play from Fox News, it discusses some strange things about their deaths.
This is a medical mystery made all the more disturbing because the Fort Worth, Texas couple who died were reportedly healthy up until the time they began to experience symptoms such as vomiting and numb hands. According to a published report, 35-year-old Michelle Paul died on May 25th, and 3 days later, her husband, 35-year-old David, an Air Force veteran, succumbed to the same illness. Authorities in Fiji had been planning to fly David to Australia for treatment. The couple notified family members that they did not feel well 1 day before they were scheduled to return home. The U.S. Embassy in Fiji has released a statement. It reads in part, "For more than a week, the U.S. Embassy has been closely working with the Fiji government, police, and health officials in their investigation into the tragic deaths of 2 U.S. citizens while on holiday in Fiji. The embassy has facilitated contact between the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Fiji's Ministry of Health to ascertain the causes of death and to assist in any related measures." The World Health Organization recently warned of a surge of cases of influenza in Fiji that affect young adults. The WHO says the illness in Fiji has killed 4 pregnant women. And according to a Fiji newspaper, as a precaution, 5 locals who had direct contact with David and Michelle Paul have now been taken to a hospital for observation. The couple leaves behind a 2-year-old son and David's daughter from a previous marriage. They also leave behind questions about the cause of their deaths. For now, all authorities in Fiji will say is that the couple died because of an illness.
What a story.
So their hands became numb, and then they began vomiting, and then they were dead shortly after. Very strange, very strange. Obviously, this is not symptoms of any illness that they've been able to identify. Again, it kind of sounds like poisoning. So here is additional coverage on that Maryland couple. So the Holmes couple, Edward Holmes and Cynthia Day, Holmes was 63 and Day was 49. Again, they were found after they failed to check out. They had been speaking with friends back home. They were excited to return. And apparently they had contacted the desk about the fact that they were feeling ill, but they turned down treatment. Now, what's really interesting is that this was shortly after a woman from Delaware said that she had been assaulted while vacationing in the Dominican Republic earlier this year. And specifically, her name is Tammy Lawrence Daly. She was attacked in Punta Cana, which is a popular tourist area, and she said her attacker wore a uniform that indicated he was an employee of the all-inclusive resort where she was staying. Lawrence Daly, who was vacationing in the Dominican Republic with her husband and some friends, posted some photos of her bruised and swollen face on Facebook. She suffered a broken nose, other facial fractures, and bites on her body, among other things. She told the Associated Press that when she went public with the attack, which had occurred in January, to heighten awareness about the dangers of visiting the country, even to tourists staying at an all-inclusive resort. Now, the attack happened when she was walking on the property at about 10:30 p.m. to buy a snack. She said the man who attacked her came up from behind and forced her into a maintenance room. She said the hotel employees were slow to act when her husband and friends reported that she had not returned to the room. Security workers eventually found her in the maintenance room. Now, in March, a New York couple visiting the Dominican Republic was reported missing after they did not get on their flight home, even though they checked out of their hotel at the scheduled time, and then weeks later said that they had apparently gotten into the accident due to the mix of speeding. This is the couple that were driving to the airport and then crashed into the ocean on the way. This is a picture of the horrible attack on the woman who was attacked by someone working at the resort. So a lot of strange occurrences, strange illnesses. And finally, Judge Emmett Sullivan, the Clinton-appointed judge, reversed course on Tuesday and allowed the Justice Department to keep the transcripts of the calls between General Mike Flynn and former Russian ambassador Sergei Kislyak hidden from the public. This is a travesty. Judge Sullivan last month ordered the transcripts of the recorded calls between Flynn and Kislyak to be released by last Friday, but federal prosecutors defied the judge's orders. Now, it said originally the government is hereby ordered to file on the public docket in this case the transcript of the voicemail recording referenced in the 75 addendum to government's memorandum in aid of sentencing and the transcripts of any other audio recordings of Mr. Flynn, including, but not limited to, audio recordings of Mr. Flynn's conversations with Russian officials, no later than May 31st. It's further ordered that the government shall submit to Chambers audio versions of the recordings on a DVD no later than May 31st. Now, last Friday, federal prosecutors refused to release the Flynn-Kislyak transcripts, arguing that the government is not relying on any other recordings of any person for purposes of establishing the defendant's guilt or determining his sentencing, nor are there any other recordings that are part of the sentencing record. Well, on Tuesday, Judge Sullivan said he accepted the government's argument to keep the Flynn-Kislyak transcripts under wraps. Ironically, these are the very transcripts that were already selectively leaked to David Ignatius of the Washington Post in January 2017, and this illegal leak to WAPO ultimately led to Flynn's firing. But now the government wants to keep the full transcripts a secret. Obviously, they are hiding information that could be a game changer for Flynn. Recall on Friday evening, deep state federal prosecutors released the full transcript from President Trump's attorneys to General Michael Flynn's attorneys. Mueller and Weissman used the phone call as evidence that Trump was attempting to interfere with the special counsel Russia collusion witch hunt, and then after the call was released, several internet sleuths compared the call transcripts to the transcript published in the Mueller report. And Robert Mueller and his hitman Andrew Weissman manipulated the transcript and lied about the call. On Monday, former Trump attorney John Dowd joined Sean Hannity to discuss the recent revelations that the Mueller report lied about his call to General Flynn's attorneys. John Dowd told Sean the entire Mueller report is a fraud, and John Dowd pointed out that the Mueller team indicted Trump associates for far less than their manipulated and false transcripts in their report. The government's abuse and targeting of General Mike Flynn should scare every American. Given the manipulation of Dowd's conversation with Kellner, the government is most likely hiding the truth about Flynn's calls with Kislyak, which is why they are fighting fiercely to keep them concealed. Now, I think it's very, very ironic that Robert Mueller charged all of these different people with process crimes when, in fact, you've got he and his team blatantly lying and manipulating and putting out conflicting information, publishing things that are clearly manipulated. And you've got people like George Papadopoulos who end up going to prison for misremembering something or being trapped in some type of a perjury trap. This really is a travesty of justice, and I was hoping to see these transcripts released because it's obvious that General Flynn was simply doing his job. All right, folks, that's all I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.